com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter to be received by those magical boxes known as radios, aka the Howard Reynolds machines, Howard Reynolds boxes. Anyway, folks, we have a great show for you today. Maybe we'll get to most of it. We don't know. You will decide. But remember our international audience who are getting our signals via the internet, created by whom? You. Now being profited by a few billionaires, but we are going to take it back. We are going to elect people who allow us back again to rule. Anyway, let's go to the studio. Buenos dias, mis hermanos favoritos, los genios en el estudio. Good morning, my favorite brothers, geniuses in the studio.
Where are those? Jack, have you seen any of those guys around here?
Well, I've seen some very heinous genios.
Some heinous. Oh, yeah, we have those in spades, believe me.
And we're one of them.
Yeah, just a couple of guys here who avoid work quite effectively. Good morning, Egberto. It's another fine day here at the radio. It looks like Jack has a whole page and a half, 2 pages?
No, just a page.
He says 1 page.
1 page.
Okay, well, 1 page is on one page and the other page is on a different page. So this may take a while. Jack, what you got, man? Looks like you got a bag full of wisdom for us today. Be sure to hijack Egberto's show.
Not really. It's part of his stuff this morning.
Okay.
All right. This is Kamala Harris here. All right. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, my brother. Great to see you.
All right. Can you see me through the radio?
Actually, great to hear you. That's what I should say. Great to hear you, brother.
Yeah, you didn't shave again. We see you.
I shave once a week, whether I need it or not.
No, okay.
What would please Kamala Harris's base would be for her to get real specific about her policies. She's definitely playing her cards close to her chest. She told you that her values have not changed. If she gets too specific in her policies, the right will line up and know exactly how to attack her. There are powerful lobbies on the right that will and are trying to undermine her run for the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for Kamala to come out and say she wants to balance the Supreme Court, put in a progressive economic policy that takes care of the working classes, discipline the corporate industrial oligarchs, overturn the Dobbs decision on Roe v. Wade. All the things progressives want Kamala to do that she can't do until she's in power. So we, the voters, must have a little faith in Kamala and her values and make her do what the people want. The real work starts after the election.
Doesn't it, though?
Got to keep pressure on them if you want something.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Look, let me tell you something. I'm going to start with a story, a stock buyback story in, one of my favorite rags. Then I'm going to tie that to the election, just as Brother Jack just spoke about, because it's very important. You notice he mentioned economic policy, he mentioned Supreme Court, etc. It is incumbent on our media, mainstream media. It is incumbent, even though they're kind of don't know right, they're running a bit scared right now because they fear that The orange man would likely do the things that the orange man said he would do to the media. So now they're not trying to play it as even as they were playing it for a long, well, I should say as uneven as they were playing it a while back. But I want to use the Boeing story as a catalyst. So if you're with us, I hope a lot of you are already with us so you don't catch this midstream. Because I think this is classic to what the things that we need to solve in this country. A title of a story today. And first of all, let me give you the title of the story. The title of the blog today, the show today is Kamala is still on track to win. Boeing lays off workers and shortage of medical saline is capitalism. And I'm going to try to, maybe I'll get to all of it, but I can definitely tie those together. But I'm going to start with the stock buybacks. After gorging on stock buybacks for years, Boeing announces mass layoffs. The corporate cure is always the same: lay off workers, said one critic. Stock buybacks and layoffs are joined at the hip. It's time that they're outlawed entirely. And we know our orange person is of the raiding corporate ilk that actually costs most people their jobs when it costs their jobs. If you take a look at where most of his support is, Appalachian parts of Ohio, Appalachian parts of Pennsylvania, Appalachian parts of America, these are places where the policies supported by plutocrats like himself, like Elon Musk and Thiel, who founded PayPal, etc. These are the people that actually is hurt by these guys, right? Remember Elon Musk on an interview with Trump when Trump says, "I hate to pay overtime," or when workers strike, just let them go, fire them. That's Trump. That's the guy who many in the working class think they would want to vote for. So, here's the story about stock buybacks. The manufacturing giant Boeing, under the leadership of new CEO Kelly Ortberg, announced Friday that it will axe roughly 10% of its total workforce in the coming months, a move that drew attention to the company's massive spending on stock buybacks in recent years. For those who don't understand what stock buybacks, let me tell you. You hear me rant about the class in this country that do no work at all, but they are the ones who profit from your labor. In other words, if you work for Exxon or you work for Madison, whoever you work for, that's a corporation. What that corporation has done, or what made that a corporation, is they have taken that corporation and split it into millions of pieces, and those millions of pieces are called stocks. And those stocks are then sent to Wall Street or some other market, and they're traded. I may want to buy 10, let's say that company is valued at $10 billion. I created 10 billion stocks worth $10 each. That's the initial value of that stock. And then I go ahead and throw that onto a market, and people who want to own my company, let's say my company is XYZ company, worth $10 billion, traded on the market originally at $10 billion, $10 a share. They can exchange those. If I get tired of owning XYZ, I can go ahead and trade XYZ. If people think XYZ is going to make a lot of money, they may buy XYZ for more than the actual face value of that stock, which was, remember, the company is valued at $10 billion. I created 10 billion stocks. So each stock is worth $10. But I may sell that stock for $12. The person who got that stock for the person who sold that stock for $12 made what's called an appreciation of $2, right? That's what they call it's an income. It's income from that stock, known as capital gains. It's capital that gained $2. So whenever you hear people talk about capital gains, you're talking about how much that stock has made over what it was purchased for. I want to back up a bit. Not because a company is valued at $10 billion means that it has $10 billion worth of assets. Let's give a small example. Let's say you have a restaurant. You built a restaurant, and that restaurant, the building for that restaurant is worth $100,000. And let's say all the equipment in that restaurant is worth $200,000. And let's say you sell approximately $100,000 worth of stuff a month, right? And let's say of that 100,000, you have a 10% profit. The basal value of that stock, based on what the business is worth, is the value of the value of the hardware, which is the building is worth $100,000, the equipment is worth $200,000. That's $300,000 for that building, right? I mean, for that business. So technically speaking, if I created $100,000 stocks for that business, the asset value, the value of that stock should be no more than about $3. But then people put all kinds of things into it. They say, well, that company is going to make $100,000 a year, which would then give me a dividend, right? A dividend mean the profit from that company based on how much it makes says that, okay, if that company makes $100,000 and 10,000 of that $100,000 is profit, then that divided amount of profit into the amount of stocks is the amount that is the optimal value that you could pay in dividend. There are other things people may do. They may have to pay taxes. There's a whole lot of stimulation. But the thing about it is, basically, a company is not the stock value, the total stock value of a company usually far exceeds what that company would be if you could just sell off all its assets, because they take into consideration things like how much that company is going to make over time, etc. Now, Trump created a company called Truth Social, which was pretty much a fraud, because that particular company had very little value in hardware, meaning buildings, etc. It had very little of that. Most of it exists in the cloud, so there's no real asset value for that company. But somebody decided to value that company at, let's say, $2 billion, right? Or $3 billion, whatever it's worth. There is no correlation between the amount of stock that was sold for Truth Social, Trump's business, and what it actually is worth. In fact, it makes under $1 million a year in revenue, but its stock's valuation when it was released was several billion dollars. It was a complete fraud. It's a way to give Trump money without it being a gift. It's a way of using the fraudulent capitalist system to do that. So I hope you understand a little bit about stocks and its relationship to companies and value. Now let's go back to the Boeing story. Because Boeing has some stock value. The company is worth X amount of dollars, they printed X amount of stocks, and the stocks have a certain value. A lot of executives in these companies are actually paid, they get their salaries, and they're also paid in something called stock options. Stock options is exactly what it sounds like. The option to buy the company stock at a certain price. Now, what the government has started to allow since Reagan that it didn't allow before is for a company to take its profits, and instead of returning those profits to the shareholders as dividends, which get taxed at regular standard worker wages rate, what these companies would do when they have excess profits is go onto the open market and buy their own stocks. In other words, take the stocks that company have, and the company now buys it back which reduces the amount of stocks, which increases the price of that stock. The executive, now because he was compensated in shares of stock, makes a whole lot more money. And the shareholders, their stock, without doing any work, without doing anything, that, let's say that $1,000, that $1 million worth of stock that they own is suddenly worth $2 million because the company bought back its shares, which created less shares on the market for the same company, which increased the price of the shares. They make a lot of money for doing absolutely nothing. And who pays? Well, because now they've used profits for giving stock value backs, they don't reinvest into planes, Boeing. They don't reinvest into safety. They don't reinvest into new equipment to do things necessary to keep their product safe. So what happens is you get now Boeing planes falling out of the sky, killing a lot of people, getting sued. You get workers that continue to get paid much at a lesser increased rate than the executives who just sit back, sell stocks, exchange stocks, etc. So these workers do what they should do. They strike the company. And when they strike the company says, "Oh, you're asking for too much. We're leaving the bargaining table." And what is Boeing's solution then? Boeing's solution is to say, "Okay, a lot of you are striking. We can't build as many planes. The 767, we're going to go ahead and let it go. We're not going to build any more 767s. We are going to go ahead and cut 17,000 workers, 10% of our workforce, because you won't take the crumbs that we want to give you." Even as our old CEO who wrecked the company, we fired him, but in the process of firing him, we gave him $45 million as a golden parachute. And the new CEO this year alone will make a salary of $22 million. That's the kind of economy we live in. That's the kind of economy too many support. But what happens, my brothers and my sisters, is that this is something most people don't understand. And they don't want you to understand this, because what you find out is it's not hyperbole when I call most workers who work for corporations indentured servants on the way to antiseptic slavery. People get mad when I say that. Some callers call and say, "I am no slave." And what I'm saying is, once you understand how our economic system works, both from a stock perspective, both from a tax-paying perspective, I neglected to tell you that one of the reasons that they want to buy back stocks to increase the value of the stock as opposed to paying a large dividend on the profits is because dividends are taxed at the rates regular Americans are paying taxes on. But capital gains, the increase in price of that stock when sold, that massive amount of money that they get instead of dividends is taxed at a much lower rate than the average person's salary. In other words, we make sure that the wealthy stays wealthy, and not only stays wealthy, but rip you off legally, while the worker goes into work every day, does his work, etc. Donald Trump is given a pass all of the times. Donald Trump cannot be attacked by the mainstream media as they should, because Donald Trump is the instantiation of our economic system on steroids. Somebody that has created nothing but massively profits from the labor of everybody and fools you into believing he is your savior. Me and only I alone can do it, says Trump. And in order to do that, he scares the bejesus out of you. He makes you believe that you are in danger. Those migrants are coming to get you. Those migrants are killing you. He goes to Aurora, Colorado yesterday and he preaches out there. They're taking over the country. They're emptying their prisons and sending them to Aurora, Colorado, to Springfield, Ohio. And for the people of non-thinking mind, or the people of little news exposure, they go to work every day. They drive their cars every day in Aurora, Colorado, a beautiful town, a beautiful city of 400,000 people. You drive the freeways, you drive the highways, you drive the neighborhoods, and you don't see crime. Yeah, there may be 10 apartment complexes where a lot of these people live and there are problems there and it's isolated to that, but you don't see any violence. It's the same thing in Chicago. In Chicago, on the news every day you hear about the crime rate and you see the shooting and the killings. What they don't tell you is that it's like they have all of that in a cage part of Chicago, and the rest of Chicago is like great, beautiful city. I went to Chicago a year ago for the Netroots convention. I went to Baltimore this year for the Netroots convention. And the city, you hear about the killings in Baltimore. Of course, the crime rate in Baltimore now is very, very way down comparative to before. Chicago, the crime rate is up again. But you go to these cities and you can go to the bars and you can go to the clubs and you can go to the restaurants and it all looks normal. It all looks good. You go to Houston. I see commercials in ads in Houston now saying, "Get rid of those judges, Democrats. They're letting criminals out." And then they put a black woman on, and the black woman says, "Oh, my." And I don't want to disparage the woman for losing her brother to crime, which is true. It's a bad thing, but it's not the prevalent thing that is happening in this beautiful city, this wonderful city of great things happening, of ethnicity of all over, great, great, great town that you can have food of every type, you can have parties of every type. In fact, we the Panamanians of Houston, Texas, are having a big bash with los típicos folclóricos y todo esto, a big thing we're having because this is such a great city. But we're being placed in fear because because the instantiation of our economic system that screws you, the same people that screws you are asking you for their vote by misleading you. Look, I find it offensive as somebody who chose this country to be a patriot of. I wasn't born here. I was born elsewhere. I came here on that dream of who the country really is. And from the time I got here, I've watched starting with Reagan, what has been done to the intellect of the country. When the mass movements of the 60s started and the 70s and the enlightenment of people started, it was wonderful watching that. And I can tell you, you cannot believe the feeling of disappointment that a country that reveres itself as the first world country has so limited its mindset. I went to one of the best universities in the state and the country, the University of Texas, a progressive bastion then. And the things that we did, the things that we learned, the things that were changed, the things that that made us who we are, to watch the fight that we are having, not to keep it and extend it, but just to hold pace. Because we have we have so far now made ignorance vogue. We have made the acquisition of knowledge something to be I remember when I got here. Well, I'm not going to tell this story till probably later, but I'm not going to tell this story till later. But the concern now is the decline of a nation, not because of migrants coming to take over, because actually what we do need now is more migrants, to tell you the truth. We need people who remember what hard work is all about, what having independent thinking is all about. And what we're seeing right now with folks allowing an intellectual neophyte but a marketing genius to do to you is quite disconcerting to the rest of the world, frightening, especially since what happens when you have somebody like that over a military power like we, second to none, third to none, first. I mean, uh, it's disconcerting for the rest of the world. Now, what I've said is, people, don't despair. I still, a lot of people tell me I'm crazy, but I still have faith in the American people, realizing and remembering that in as much as in 2016, Hillary didn't win the Electoral College, most people in America voted not for the person who promotes hate, not for the person who promotes ignorance, not for the person who promotes the rape of women, not for the and when I say that, I don't say that blatantly. If you watch the Republican convention, what they wanted to centralize on, and they're pulling in a group of machismo type men with that thing. They brought in the WWE, and they brought in, I'm a man, and as if being a man means taking advantage of others, as being a man taking advantage of women makes you macho, grabbing on a woman's private parts make you manly. Hmm. That's not what my dad taught me. My dad taught me quite a bit, something quite differently. But if you listen to Trump and you listen to him talk on the stage yesterday, a woman protested, knock her out. Wow. Is that where we really want to be as a country? Like I tell folks on the blog I wrote yesterday, actually went viral, 36,000 people so far have viewed it. I said, let me tell you something. The race is not as up for grabs as you think. It's Kamala's race, and I can't tell anybody how to vote. I can't do that from here. On my 3 o'clock show, I'll tell you what you need to do, but here I can just tell you the facts. And the facts are simple. The facts are simple. If you believe in democracy, vote for democracy. If you believe in humanity, vote for humanity. If you believe in human rights, vote for human rights. If you believe in a woman's agency to her own body, if you believe a woman should be able to control her body, that I, as a man or woman or whatever, should have no presence in somebody else's human space, body, vote appropriately. If you believe in an economic system where it makes sense for all to prosper, vote appropriately. If you want to believe in fear, if you want to believe that all those people that look different than you do somehow is a problem, first of all, it's not true. Secondly, it's one thing, and one thing that would cause a demise. All right, folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Give me a call. Two lines are not open, but all the rest are open right now, so you'll get through rather quickly. 713-526-5738. And look, today, I would love to hear from a lot of women, if at all possible. Many of you call in and say, the reason you don't hear from us is because we are taking care of business. I want to talk to some of you that are actually taking care of business. 713-526-5738. Because I tell you something, with our man-centric way of talking, we leave the most important message out. So women, give me a call, 713-526-5738. Let's go to Brother Jacob on line number 1.
Yo, yo, hey, Alberto. I'm a Chicagoan, so yeah, Chicago is a beautiful city. And Chicago got its issues, and it's amazing to me that they sent majority of those who come over here illegally to Chicago and New York, where you got brother mayors over the city, and you know all the money that they got to spend, and it's causing confusion with them that it's going to be hard for them to get reelected. Because of the people, the natives is there that've been there, they're not getting the access that these new people getting.
Can I interrupt you right there, Jacob? Because you're right. You're right. What our governor here in Texas did was to send all the people that came over the border to make a statement, send them to Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, all these cities that are democratic cities to make a point. And you know what?
Right.
The one thing that I do blame the Biden administration for is there are two things that you said that is very important, Jacob. You said that the people that are already living in that city, for all practical purposes, they were left behind. And then when you take a look at when the migrants came into the city of Chicago, yes, they got housing. Yes, they got put away in whether they be shelters or otherwise. You have a very valid point there. And that is what we need to solve. I see some of the policies that Kamala is talking about is supposed to hit that directly. But you're absolutely, how do you, a person who lives in Chicago, who's struggling in the projects, who's struggling with a job, and then we have people seeking political asylum, economic asylum, or whatever, come over here. And it creates animosity, and exactly what he wanted to do is what he's doing. That is what he wanted to do, and that is what he's doing. Go ahead, Jacob.
Right. And he spent the budget on that too. Now the Texans don't know he spent airplane tickets, bus tickets, or whatever. But they welcomed him though. He pulled their card. He's like, oh, okay, y'all want them, y'all sanctuary cities, huh? Okay, then. He outsmarted them with that. But in Kamala, what Kamala, man, is messing up, she polling at 70-some% amongst us, the natives, the descendants of the captives.
Yeah.
She is polling like 70-some%. Without us, Humberto, she's not going to win. All of y'all together, like all the descendants or immigrants of descendants, y'all can't put her over the top. We could. Us. It's us.
Wait. I don't think, again, Jacob, there's no disagreement here, Jacob, there's no disagreement. There's absolutely no disagreement.
Okay. Last little thing, man. Kamala got it. It's probably too late for her. But in the beginning, she shouldn't have separated the men from the women. She should have came at a whole. Like, look, I have identified as being one of y'all. She can't say it right out, but she had to have at least met. And what Trump is doing is going around the country having small meetings with the Latino brothers and with us. And in Georgia, he meet with them individually, like he was going to do with Ice Cube and a couple of entertainers, because the politicians didn't want to meet with him. He had a goal plan that he said that I'm going to give directly to y'all. These they didn't believe, the older black people, so-called black people went berserk. They meet with him, this and that, and he lost. So he's doing it now. He's doing it under the table. And Trump don't care about none of them. He don't care about like the people, some of the Appalachians or whatever. He really don't even care about them. All
No, he
right,
doesn't.
man. I mean, that's what people
No,
want
no,
to get
don't
in.
leave. Don't leave because I want to correct. I want to correct one thing that I think where we may differ. Um, I think it's unfair what a lot of people are saying or doing about Kamala. You know, women get a hard. They have to play a hard game because if they go too hard in one direction, they're angry, etc. Trump can be angry all of the times. Trump can be macho all of the times, and nobody says anything. But now, if Kamala has to, she has to walk a very tight rope, racially, gender wise, in every aspect. She has to walk a very thin line. And, brother, I hope somebody like you who's had to walk a line, you know exactly
Right.
what I'm talking about,
It's
that you would have
so
some
funny to
grace.
me.
Wait, let me finish. Let me finish. That you should
I
have
got you.
some grace with what this woman has to do in order to win the presidency. And I think she's going to win. And I think it's not going to be as close as people think. I think what's going to happen is a break. And that break has to happen where everybody starts looking at things the way they are and not the mirrors and the smoke and mirrors that we're seeing. Give me a closer so I can go to Patty,
All
Jacob.
right. All right. She brought the big gun out. She brought Obama out, right? Now let's see if Obama can put over the top. She brought the big gun out. Now he
I don't
going
think
hard
Obama can. Obama can. Obama is. I love Obama, his oratory skills or whatever. Gen Zs don't give a damn about oratory skills. What they care about is Gen Z is a in-your-face generation, and Gen Z is what we need to win. Obama will do good to share up the old vote, okay, the older people's vote. But when it comes to Gen Z needs a hell of a lot more than the rhetoric that Obama. I love Obama, but that's not the rhetoric that brings Gen Z. The rhetoric that brings Gen Z
I
is
think they could put over the top. She got to
say
hit the
that.
campuses. She
Let me
got to
tell you,
put
and
buses
that's
to drive them to the
you
school.
just
That's
nailed it,
all right.
brother, you just nailed it, and that's why she's doing all those. What the Gen Zs are deeply into. In fact, I'm learning that the way, and the reason I do a whole lot of TikToks and Instagram, etc., is you have to meet them in the blogs, you have to meet them in the podcasts and those areas, and she's doing all of that right now. Thank you very much for your commentary, Jacob. And let's go to Sister Patty.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What we have going on now is it's not R's and D's, it's truth and fiction. And what we're fighting is against lies. I believe that we're going to have to go more center than a lot of us would like, for the simple fact that it will have to be a coalition of people who are more conservative but cannot accept the authoritarianism, the fascism of the lying side. And this is going to have to be what we accept, is that for the election, it will not, our candidate is going to have to be more centrist, but once elected, will have capability to go with the majority more so.
You know, Patty, I have not heard a more sensible statement on the airwaves than what you've just said. You've nailed it. The reality is this: to win this election, sensible people of all factions, all sides, whether conservative, liberal, they all are fighting for a better good. That's why I don't know if you read any of my blogs, but I talk about that I completely disagree with Liz Cheney, but I love Liz Cheney. And it's not that I love Liz Cheney because of what she's doing. I love Liz Cheney because I realize that, yes, she's really a conservative, but first and foremost, She's a human being who believes in what's best for the country. She believes it on the conservative side. I am very progressive. But you've just said what need to be said to win. Anything else you want to say before you leave?
That's all. This truly is. One more thing. Believing in a false reality, believing in lies, is very detrimental for our country. And so a large portion of our country currently is not mentally well. It's not healthy. And it's considered a disorder. And so that's something we're going to have to live with and deal with in the coming years as well. That's
One
all.
of the reasons, yeah, Patty, what I tell people all of the time, you hear me in my show with I love you. And a lot of times I tell people love is going to be a lot of the answers. And I remind people that if you had a mentally ill child, you won't hate them. You'll try to do what's necessary to make them better. We have a society right now that attempts to make people dumber, attempt to let people look at all the wrong things. Again, it is by design and well calculated through their own psychologists how to do this, and that's what we need to solve. Thank you so kindly for your call, Patty. Very smart call.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day. Let's go to Sister Moses. Come on in.
Buenos días,
Buenos días, corazón. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, bien, bien. I'm going to speak this morning to Gen Z because this is where the swords and arrows of the Republicans have pierced some of their hearts, because I speak to a lot of them. And again, as being a retired teacher, I have seen my students. And I'm to my students and to all of the students who we teachers have taught and taught you right. This election is your opportunity to save yourselves from the hell your enslaved ancestors suffered at the hands of people like Donald Trump, and whom you are still suffering. You've seen your grandmothers, you've seen your grandfathers. Your daddies are in jail. Your uncles are in jail. Most of them are either in jail. Your young brothers and cousins, most of them, if they're not in jail, and you know the word in the hood, if they're not in jail, they're dead. And you know why they died. You know the time you had to run across the track because the cops came after you. It has not changed. You know the time when they came in the hood to rape you, to steal from you, and then to go and lie on you. Gen Z, Generation Z, this election is your chance to look the devil in his face and tell him, get out, and respect your slave grandmothers, respect your daddy, your uncle, your cousins who are sitting in jail and who have died because they threw drugs in the neighborhood so that they can keep you in slavery. Gen Z, black or white, this is your generation. This is your chance to stand behind the woman. As all of your generations have stood behind strong women who have brought you into this generation. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly for your words, Moses. In the chat, welcome Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. Welcome Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. Great to have you guys all here in the chat. All right, let's go to Bart. Come on in, Bart.
Good morning, sir. I wanted to thank you for your announcement Friday on Election Day. It's coming up within 3 weeks, very soon. You announced it was on October the 8th, so I want everyone to mark their calendars for November the 8th. So 11/8, that's Election Day, if you would mark that down. And then, secondly, I also want to speak to Gen Z. Do you
Oh,
want to?
hold on.
You want your
We don't
account?
give no, stop,
Uh,
stop. We don't use a that is what you just did is election fraud, sir. Um, sir, you never do
oh,
that. Especially, wait, stop. You don't do that on the national airwaves that belongs to everybody. Bard, you've lost your opportunity to speak for doing that. Cut. I don't do this, but this is very serious, folks. Election day is November 5th. Tuesday, November 5th is election day. What you just heard there is something right wingers are doing all across the country, trying to tell Americans that elections are not when they are, or trying to give misinformation about elections. So anybody who hears Bard mention that the election is November 8th, remember it is November 5th, the election day. But let me tell you further. Now that you understand that you're going to be lied to about when the election is going to be, now that you understand that you're going to be lied to on various issues, I ask all anybody that's listening to me and that you mention this to the ones you love, the ones you care about, to make sure that they do the right thing. Let them know the actual day that the election is on. Let me tell you something. I've watched the mainstream media carry Donald Trump telling lies. Okay? What I hope I would have expected the mainstream media as soon as he told a lie to cut him off and do exactly what I just did here. Cut off somebody that's using the airwaves that belongs to all of us to mislead you and lie to you. We should never allow that to happen. That what he did there is not only election fraud, but messing with the election. And they're doing that by emails, they're doing that by push cards, they're doing that throughout. People, make sure everybody knows it's a Tuesday, November 5th, and make sure everybody knows that this type of misinformation is going on. Let's go to Brother Johnny.
Thank you, Brother Egberto, for putting that Republican in his place. 22 days and counting. Don't forget, 22 days and counting. God help this country. So I will respectfully push back to the earlier caller, the woman who suggested in a sheepish tone that we need to perhaps try to meet in the middle and go towards the middle. And everything she said, I can't agree with. There are too many self-righteous, self-entitled, stingy, greedy, lazy chicken hawks telling women they have no autonomy, no sovereignty, and no place but in the kitchen and the bedroom. So, you plus-size, curvy women out there, the progressive left needs powerful, sexy housewives and career women as allies to save our country before it's too late. Okay? You guys need to put your boyfriends and husbands in their place, especially the ones who fall in that category I just mentioned. Put them in their place before it's too late. Teach them that women have a God-given right to own and control whoever they please, including and especially them. Now, I'm being kind of comical here, but this is serious. What Breitbart just did, that's just one of a whole boatload of examples of how they violate the law. They do it brazenly and openly and with no problem. They have no problem in trying to subvert our electoral process. So bend these guys to your will. Physically, literally, turn them into your faithful, loyal, obedient domestic servants and sex slaves if necessary, just like they have done to women and teenage girls for ages.
Let me just say one thing, Johnny. That's all right, John. Before you go, to Patty who called, who I think you're addressing, I must say that I understand exactly what Patty is saying, and I think you took it differently than Patty meant it. In fact, let me give an example. In the chat, somebody is saying, "Oh, Patty is actually saying it's okay to lie." No, she's not saying it's okay to lie. She's saying it's okay to tag to the middle to make sure you give people the ramp that they need to get on board, and then we fight things out after the election. So let's not completely, or not, let's not at all not listen to what Patty has to say in the frame and tone that she had to say it. Notice what she said. Patty's a very progressive woman, but she's willing to do what's necessary to save our country. And I know you are too, brother Johnny. You may have a different tact to it, but I know you do too. Johnny, got to go to Donald. Anything else, real quick?
Final, final thought. The status quo Democrats aren't going to get us there. We see what's happening. They're doing the same playbook again and again.
No. Johnny. I really want to push back on that one in this regards. We have allowed that to occur. I'm talking about we allowed it to occur under Obama and to some extent under Biden. We have to do exactly what you said 3 or 4 shows ago. Just remember what you said 3 or 4 shows ago. And we'll talk later. We'll talk tomorrow, Johnny.
I just say that all I'm saying is they'll just bend over and let the GOP have their way with them, just
No,
like they did under President Barack.
No, we're not going to do that. In fact, not even Biden did that. Take a look at the policies. You know that. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let's go to Donald.
Bill,
Thank you, Johnny.
Bill.
Love you, bro. Donald, come on in.
Good morning, Alberto. How are you today?
I am doing fine, my brother. Talk to me.
Good, good. I heard that humanity, you know, that manatee that swam up Buffalo Bow is on part of our voting.
Yes.
We still have to change the loopholes. That is the problem. It doesn't matter which politician you get in there. It's all of them have got the loopholes, and even they're using them. And Trump's using them. They're all using them. But what I was going to ask you this morning, what is the definition of a terrorist?
Terrorist is the other person's liberator.
Well,
I
yes,
know people
all
are like
they strike fear, correct? They strike fear. Now, let's say if country J attacks country A, and they hit a military complex, right? And then country A attacks country J, but they use a bomb or two to annihilate a whole city. Who is the actual terrorist in that?
the person who annihilated the whole city.
That would be America and Japan, correct?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to name countries, but you can decide to.
That's exactly. So we're seeing it right now in the Middle East, but nobody's calling it out.
Yeah. Look, let me tell you something, okay? And that's the thing with power, Donald. Power is hard. Look, you know, I don't know if you see how I start my program, and I'm going to tell you the psychology behind my program. Right now, Americans have been indoctrinated into the belief that there's something special about wealthy people, people with capital, the capitalists, the Elon Musk, etc. These guys really play the capitalist system great, but they don't do anything. They make nothing. They create nothing. Most of them don't have they don't know that everybody's given great praises that ship came back to earth and the calipers held them as that ship came back down to earth. And it's like, look how great Musk is. Musk didn't do a damn thing. Musk was a capitalist. And we have to first let folks know that they are the ones that are making America run. It's not the big guy, the big dog at the top, the capitalist, because we have to disempower those, because we are still in a patriarchal type society where we are always looking up for that central leader as opposed to looking at the collective. So one of my jobs as a host and what I like to call, somebody that's out there trying to let everybody see their worth, WORTH, your worth, is to show that we need to stop worshiping the capital. We need to stop worshiping these folks and start looking at our brothers and sisters. I hear you say certain things. I love what you have to say. I stole you. I stole Johnny. I stole Fatty. I stole Moses. the folks that are out there doing something, right? I want us to get to the point where the people that we adore, the people that we love on, the people that we see as worthy of our love, of worthy of our respect, are those around us that are actually doing something. We are not there as a country yet. We still always look up to the top. And as long as we look up to the top, they can always steer us to do the wrong things, just like Donald Trump steers quite a bit of his flock to do the wrong thing. But I gotta go. I gotta go to get Brian is on for the last call, and he doesn't much time. So we talk later, Donald. Thank you, my brother.
Later. Yes, sir.
All right. Come on in, Brian, real quick.
Good morning. How is everyone?
We're fine, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay, I need to follow up on a question one of your callers asked me personally. What is the difference between weather and climate? That's a rather ridiculous question if you ask me, but I guess he doesn't realize the Magellanian condition, like 17,000 to 12,000 years ago, glaciation maximum. Weather is today. Climate is a measurable event over eons, possibly thousands of years, hundreds of years. One of my hobbies is paleoanthropology. Okay, does he realize that the Middle Bronze Age was not there because they needed to make metal, but that period was so cold that they burnt wood to self-sustain?
All right. Well, I don't know. I don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're going with this, but I think everybody understands the difference between climate and weather, and we also understand right now that the weather is being affected by what we're doing faster than it would under natural conditions. We are affecting weather to a much larger degree, and the carbonization of the water, the carbonic acid being formed in the ocean. You could take a sample and realize it's not volcanic, but actually from the burning of fossil fuel. Anyway, I gotta go. Real studio, real quick.
Nothing here.
Thank you, humanity.
All right, I love that. Anyway, folks, the rest of the show is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Love you all. Love all my callers, listeners. Please, let's stick together and let's do the right thing. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. The ink wasn't yet dry on the Indian Citizens Act of 1924 when voter suppression of Native Americans began. Natives have been fighting for their right to register and vote, proper representation, and fair voting districts ever since. The Brennan Center for Justice writes that for decades...